The cat, Vusimusi Matlala, has been a name tough to keep out of our top news headlines of 2025. From the Tembisa Hospital extraction scandal to a failed hit on his former lover, actress Tebogo Thobejane, and brushing shoulders with former police commissioner and longtime minister Bheki Cele, the cat's 9 lives, well, they may well and truly be finally up. But the man who's taken up slain whistleblower Babita Deokaran's cause to flag criminality in the Gauteng health sector is our very own, the excellent Jeff Wicks. And he joins us for this very special holiday edition of The Lead.
To know when the next episode drops, hit the like, follow and subscribe buttons on our YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcast channels.
A special and genuine thanks to each and every one of you for listening, commenting and sharing The Lead on News 24 this year. With more than 150 episodes under our belt so far and broadcasting 4 times a week, that's Monday to Thursday, our show's racked up around 900,000 listens thus far. With our shared pursuit of quality journalism, we can continue to tell the South African story in truly unique ways in 2026. Happy holidays. Look after yourself, please. Buckle up and avoid drinking and driving. My name's Graeme Raubenheimer. This is The Lead, and this is the South African story. Jeff, how are you doing?
Good in yourself, Graeme.
Yeah. Are you winding down for the year? Do you feel it?
I can feel that I want to wind down for the year, but I'm just not sure the news cycle is going to let any of us have a break. But let's be hopeful.
Yeah. Look, the cat's brushes with the law is something that stretches back more than 2 decades, and I think that's something quite difficult for South Africans to get to wrap their heads around in the last couple of months as more of the revelations pop up at the Matlanga Commission. But what do we know about those early origins of the cat, Jeff?
No, certainly. I think you're absolutely right. His dalliance with law enforcement stretches back until he was a teenager in his formative years, and it was a point of focus for us in our investigation in trying to tell the story of who this man is. And I believe that his alleged criminal history is completely germane to that. There's, I think, more than 18 instances in which he was arrested and charged. The majority of those criminal charges were withdrawn, and these are not petty crimes. He has a conviction for house robbery, which I think dates back to 2001, but he's been charged in relation to attempted murders, cash and transit heists, and violent crime. And I think all of that goes a ways to sketching the persona that Cat Matlala is. And now that he's central to what's going on in the criminal justice cluster, it's important that we understand as much as possible about this man. Every aspect of his life will come under scrutiny, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Look, when you say the cat, the 9 lives trope definitely comes to mind quite quickly. But for people who are genuinely curious, and it's something we've spoken about quite extensively on The Lead over the last course of the last couple of months or so, is where did he get this name? That he probably holds as a sign of honor, I would think. He probably loves the fact that he's called the cat. It's almost superhero-like.
Well, I believe that he does, because he's named his security company Cat VIP. That has to be a nod to his moniker in some way. And it's something that I've been trying to decode for a long time. And, unfortunately, we remain in the realm of rumor and supposition, but I can explain it. I mean, some say that he was shot in a cash and transit robbery in 2006. That's confirmed by the fact that he was charged with such a crime in the same year. And he was supposedly injured, and it looked like at least that he might have been knocking on death's door. When he survived, he came to own the sobriquet Cat. There's another version that says the Sesotho word katse, as in the feline cat, is colloquially referred to or used to refer to those who execute cash and transit heists. Now, in the one instance where I managed to get this man on the phone, I actually put this to him. I asked him, where did you get your nickname? And he wouldn't tell me. And then I presented him with these 2 versions, and all he would do is laugh. And to me, that's an acknowledgement in some sense that he appreciates and benefits from this persona.
Right. But look, it was Babita's personal devices that the family finally shared with you, Jeff, after you had built a very genuine rapport with Babita's relatives, that you managed to get access to her laptop and other devices, that you slowly but surely started combing through a lot of her evidence, the red flags that she had raised quite early on regarding the Tembisa extraction network, and thus you slowly but surely came across the name Vusimusi Matlala. What was your first sort of inkling of, this looks weird, over and above just Morgan Maamela and the rest of it, but, who is this Vusimusi Matlala fellow? When did you first have that aha moment?
So I think when it must be said that our 9 Lives investigation, which has been running since December last year, has certainly been spawned by the original Tembisa Hospital investigation that Babita Deokaran started. And when we got access to her laptops, we started sort of trying to plot out the syndicates which were preying on that facility. And, he was a very small figure in the grander scheme of things. He had 3 companies, but they weren't due that much money. But as we started to investigate and tried to really pin down the masterminds of these syndicates, it was clear from our sources that Vusimusi Matlala and Morgan Maamela operated hand in glove. Matlala was Morgan's consigliere. He was seen as his muscle. And certainly there was an intimidation factor about Vusimusi Matlala. And, at that time, we knew that this would be a figure that was worth looking at a little closer. When we did that, we understood the depth of his criminal history, his brushes with the law, and his obvious reach and influence into law enforcement. And we knew he was someone that we'd have to look at a lot closer going forward. And that's what we tried to do with our 9 Lives investigation this year.
Yes. And throughout, you had started already making the connections between the cat and the hat. At least that's what I've been sort of calling out in terms of our lead episodes. Bheki Cele, on 3 occasions, you've placed them in the same sort of domicile, or at least in connection with one another, where, albeit maybe it's, voice notes or missed calls or whatever the case may be, or the Bheki Cele using the Pretoria penthouse that the cat had, that was belonging to the cat at one point. And then all of that comes out in the Madlanga Commission. Some people are surprised by that. It's been written on News 24's pages for the longest time, because you had drawn those lines quite consistently in the run-up to the commission.
Yeah, I think it was important, Graeme. I mean, obviously, when we understand this entire commission was set in motion by the shocking revelations of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And the sort of the central thrust of what he said in his press conference was that the police and the police ministry, as well as other arms of law enforcement, had been captured by malevolent actors like Cat Matlala. And Mkhwanazi, went a ways to single out Senzo Mkunu's link with Matlala. Now, we knew from our investigation at that stage that he had other links that the general, mysteriously seemed to omit. And it was important for us to really place that on record and place Matlala in close proximity with Bheki Cele, because that is the truth, And Bheki Cele, in all of our engagements, as tiring as they were for me, he never denied any association with Cat Matlala. In fact, he celebrated it, and he's gone on to do the same before Parliament. And we know about Matlala's reach to Cele from the Madlanga Commission. This confirms our reporting. And it just shows that what we'd written those months before the commission started was based on solid and reliable evidence that was unimpeachable. And, when we think about how the criminal justice system has been captured, if it is, a relationship like this between Matlala and a former police minister is incredibly germane and important to that.
And I feel like we still don't even know the full extent of it. Yes, we've gotten some glimpses of it, at least on the CAT's accounts, before parliamentarians, in that unprecedented inquiry being held at the Kgosi Mampuru II prison, in which, he details the Woolies bags, full of hard cash, etc., etc. To be a fly on the wall of all of those meetings, right, Jeff? Because I think we don't have the full picture, do we?
No, not at all. And I think, there's not a great chance that we ever will, because unless we were flies on the wall, I think the minutiae of those engagements will be out of reach for us. But what is clear is that Mr. Matlala, even on his own version, was perfectly willing to hand over stacks of cash to Cele, who then brought to bear his influence over the police. Now, that's problematic on many scores. Bheki Cele is a political principal who is out of the police for now more than a year. And we know that he has this persona that he thinks he's the sheriff in town, and he was, the shoot to kill mantra that he so desperately loved. But it's problematic that a politician who has now exited the police ministry has the ability to, make calls and get Matlala what he wanted. And in that case, Matlala paid him or gave him a reward for getting his guns back. Now, that's interference in a police investigation. We cannot take that more seriously enough. The reality is that if Mr. Matlala, if what Mr. Matlala was saying is true, it's a damning indictment on Bheki Cele. And I mean, he'll advance the argument, I'm out of politics, I can associate with who I want. But that's simply not good enough. It's, yes, you can associate with whomever you like, but then taking money to sway police investigations is highly problematic.
Yeah, and notwithstanding the fact that the 365 million rand SAPS Health Services tender, as you've consistently pointed out, Jeff, was awarded to the CAT at the tail end of Bheki Cele's last tenure in the union buildings in Pretoria. So, I mean, come on. Okay. Look, Bheki Cele's got to go to sleep at night and think about all of these things and, to be a fly on his conscience. What's outstanding in this case, really? The SIU probe, the SAPS tender probe, the alleged attempted assassination. What really, in essence, is the CAT facing in all of this? Look, he's currently behind bars for the failed alleged hit on actress Tebogo Thobejane, and that's a completely separate matter altogether. But what is in store for him in 2026?
Well, if we're being honest, Graeme, he's facing a war on many fronts. He faces investigation by the SIU as regards his Tembisa procurement, which we've shown to be based on fraudulent documents, at least in several instances. Then he faces an IDAC investigation for the dubious manner in which his police tender was awarded. And then there's another criminal assault, because he not only faces charges as related to Tebogo Thobejane's attempted assassination, but two others. Beyond that, I think people could make a strong case that he lied to Parliament. Our stories have proved it. On top of that, it's now this political process through the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee and the Madlanga Commission. He's got an extremely busy year. I hope he's got good lawyers and a fair ton of cash to pay them, because he's really going to be up against it in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be one to watch. But the investigations into these extraction networks, from my mind's eye, I can't imagine it being an awful long time before we stumble upon yet another extensive investigation that will require all hands on deck on the News 24 investigations team, right? And as Peter du Toit, our investigations editor, has previously pointed out, Jeff, it's almost as if you guys have the modus operandi down tacked. You know exactly how these guys are operating now, and they really cannot hide once we start taking a closer look.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's important to note that all of the work that we do is in the public interest. And we'll chase individuals like Cat Matlala because it's important. Because someone who preyed upon the poor patients of Tembisa Hospital should not go on to be successful through another tender. We certainly won't let that happen because it's not in the public interest. And what we're seeing from our perspective is that, corruption is endemic. But when you hone in on one specific syndicate, that syndicate will make you travel, because that's exactly what happened with Tembisa. From Tembisa, it took us into the SAPS, and next year it'll take us to other hospitals and other avenues of extraction previously unrevealed. We've got big plans for 2026, and I'll just take a moment to thank everyone who pays their subscription, because really they need to understand that they keep us in the fight. Their 109 Rand per month payment really... Without that, none of the investigations that we do in this team would be possible.
Yes, and the lead would absolutely be dead air. No episodes. It would just be silent treatment for all of our lead listeners out there. Are you ready to play Roby's round robin, Jeff Wicks? I'm going to throw 10 questions at you. They're carefully picked by a very extensive editorial team. You must be prepared to answer quite effectively. It's going to come at you fast. It's mostly news related, but it's fun and flippant. Are you ready?
Let's go, Graeme.
Okay, question number 1. What is the one South African scandal you still want answers to in your lifetime?
Pala Pala.
Ooh, that's 2 pala pala so far. Number 2, if you could put one politician on airplane mode for a month, who would it be?
Good question, Graeme. It would have to be Duduzile Sambula Zuma.
Which press conference in 2025 emotionally harmed you the most?
It would have to be Mkwanazi's. He interrupted a Sunday walk with my dogs.
Who's your favorite News 24 colleague? You got to answer it. You got to be biased.
Carol Payton.
Carol Payton, not even your own wife, Bernadette Wicks.
No, I mean, maybe cut that out.
What's the one story in South Africa this year that deserved the Netflix docuseries treatment?
Oh, I think Cat Matlala's 9 Lives is ripe for dramatization.
Lekker, I thought you'd say that. We're halfway through. Which South African song, keyword South African song, would be the soundtrack to your journalism career thus far, Jeff?
Nothing from the Kiffness.
If we were forced to embed with one government department for a year, which one do you think you would survive the longest in?
I wouldn't. I'd rather eat glass.
You have one wish for South African journalism next year. What is it?
Grow, strengthen, and continue the work of the Fourth Estate.
All Jeff Wicks wants for Christmas is?
Time to rest.
And fill in the blank, our final Roby round robin. South Africa will officially be okay when?
Stilted silence.
Sure. Okay. That's Jeff Wicks. I know he's got a whiskey with his name on it somewhere. He's going to be taking a lot of off time with his dogs and enjoying, hopefully, a better round of weather over the festive season in Johannesburg. Nkosi kakhulu, danko. Jeff, I really appreciate it. All the episodes on the lead this year have been absolute bangers and have been among our most listened to by a land mile.
Thanks, G. Let's do more in 2026.
Remember, so long as there's trusted news first, you'll always have the lead on News 24. Here's to an epic 2026.